Hello world, I'll get into the climate change broadcast in a little bit here, but I'm at the top of Big Round Top in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania on the Gettysburg National Battlefield, and this is what we're seeing. Rather than the devastation of a civil war, we're seeing the devastation of the environment. And these are mighty oaks and different trees, ash trees and different things. They're absolutely dying now, and it's very disconcerting to see and watch and in real time, because I love this battlefield and spent, I don't know, 40, how old am I? I don't even know how long I've been out here, 48 years of running on the battlefield. And, it's disconcerting to see what's happening with the whole environment, and people don't even seem to notice what's happening, too wrapped up in their lives and the news, rather than looking up, as in the phrase, don't look up, in the movie Don't Look Up. Rather than looking up and just looking around and seeing what's going on with everything. Down below here, Tiny and I were on a walk around Big Round Top on a trail that nobody ever takes, and we counted one tree that was, 164 years old that was down, and of course it took others with it. But there are various types of death on this battlefield. Some are just straight pull-outs, like the root systems pull out, as this tree will go eventually, or insect attacks due to climate change. Insects aren't dying right now due to an easy winter all the time, and it's not as severe as it used to be, so they have at it with the trees and everything. So this is Big Round Top. I've been meaning to take you all up here. I should have brought you up here in the winter because the view is spectacular. And hush, I don't want to tell too many people about it because then it becomes too populated. But it is Gettysburg Battlefield, and it's as weird as it sounds, I'm very fortunate to have all these thousands of men willing to die so that I can go out here on runs and hikes. It sounds bizarre. So that was 1863, was the Battle of Gettysburg, turning point of the Civil War. So here we are. Today's June 3rd. This is the number 182 Climate Change Emergency Protest. Hello world. June 10th will be the next one, and that'll be number 183. So this is number 182. This is 2022. Is this a dream to bring you up here? I mean, it really is. It's just, even though you can't see it, I can probably see for a good 30 miles to the southeast right now. On a clear day, you can see a panorama. It's just amazing. So I've been wanting to bring you up here, though, for, a long time. And, these are far, far away views. And you would think by coming up here without looking around that nothing was happening. Everything was just going along as is. And it is not. You would think nothing is wrong in the world. You would not know that 7 million people are at risk of dying in Somalia right now due to drought and famine. You would not know the Horn of Africa and the West is in the worst drought in 100 plus years. That's East Africa. And then in West Africa, you got 27 million that are starving to death. You don't hear this on our news in the United States. You have 27 million starving to death in West Africa, with 11 more million to be in that category by July. You would not know that India and Pakistan was 120 degrees recently. Some places were 122 degrees Fahrenheit. You would not know the devastating impact India is having with its wheat. It's lost 50% of its wheat crop. So they are no longer exporting wheat because they're trying to survive as a country. You would not know 100 people, being up here, you would not know that 100 plus people have died in landslides and floods in Brazil this week. You would not know that the Southwest United States is still on fire in a worsening western drought. You see Lake Mead, Lake Powell, check it out online. It's just crazy how much the water level has dropped. And California's in water restrictions, and it does require a special kind of stupid for the people west of the Mississippi not to be standing up and protesting every 5 seconds about climate change. Their houses are burning down, forests are on fire, farms are being lost due to crop loss, and they can't pay their bills. And, as I said, Lake Mead and Lake Powell are running out of water. I mean, they're in severe water restrictions in California, meaning that they can only water their lawn once a week, which is insanity. They shouldn't be watering their lawns at all, and they shouldn't have lawns. You would not know that in the Northeast, Caribou, Maine, recently was 90 degrees. That's usually one of the coldest places in the country, 90 degrees in the far, far northeast of the United States. Here, the temperature last week was in the upper limit of human survivability. People think, oh, it's just hot. But no, if it had stayed like that for days on end, you got temperatures of 94 degrees, and if it was a higher temperature at night, and the air conditioner goes out, with the humidity, you're at the point where the human body cannot cool down anymore, and that's called wet bulb temperature. You would not know that the carbon dioxide is still approaching its highest level ever, and it should have leveled off back in March, as it used to do, but now it's at 421.94 parts per million. Meaningless to you, probably, unless you're really learned in climate change. But at 421 parts per million, the safe zone is 280 parts per million. That's what it was up to the year 1750. Anything above 280 parts per million, which humans lived in between 300 and below carbon dioxide parts per million, it is now 421. That is 241 parts per million above normal, 241 parts per million above where it should be in order to be considered safe. Right now, no country has a safe plan. No actions being taken. No plan to go forward with climate change. Yeah, in the future, when you vote, yeah, go ahead, vote blue, vote red, but only if there's a clear, complete plan for climate change to get back to 280 parts per million. There is not. There's no consensus in either party or any party around the world as to how to really get there. Voting for anything less than people that are skilled in climate change and know what they're talking about is considered and can be considered by any of those not voting as a murder-suicide pact. If you keep voting for people that have no plan and make things worse and worse and worse, you're actually committing murder and suicide of the world. So how much carnage are we willing to accept? Joe Biden said that yesterday about the school shootings, and he's exactly right. How much carnage are we willing to accept? You know, every day in the United States, there's shootings all over the place. I mean, it's just shooting gallery. You wouldn't know it because largely it doesn't affect us. But the country's pretty big as far as many people. But, you know, when you're that family that is on the wrong end of the bullet, then it's a problem, and it's you know, very apparent that something needs to be done. Well, how much carnage are we willing to accept? Well, climate change, you know, when it happens, there are 73 million children, if you're concerned about children, as everyone keeps saying, there are 73 million children above age 18 in the United States alone. You know, by 2023, 2024, I anticipate all hell starting to break loose. That's next year and the following year. El Nino hasn't even erupted on the oceans yet. And when that happens, it's going to get even worse and worse. What is El Nino, Jim? Well, basically, it's the venting off of the heat that the oceans have been accumulating. The oceans are saving our asses, literally. And 90% of all the heat in the environment ends up in the oceans. It's equal to 7 atomic bombs in heat per second going off in the oceans. So, you know, how much carnage you're willing to accept? Gun control? Yeah, that's an important issue, as are other issues. But we need politician control. Corruption and sinister actions by every president, from Carter to Reagan to Bush to Clinton to Bush to Obama to Trump to Biden. You know, they are climate change nightmares. They drill, baby, drill. If you think I'm insulting Barack Obama, then check it out when he spoke in front of Oklahoma and bragging about how much pipeline he laid around the whole country. And he said it was enough pipe to lay around the world. And they drilled the heck out of everything during that era. You know, he professes to be the climate change president, but he really wasn't. He was an anti-climate change president. So the same thing's going on now. You know, as much as I detest Donald Trump, and he was horrible too. All the presidents have been terrible. Right now, Joe Biden last year authorized 3,500 drilling permits in addition to 80 million acres, which was humongous in the Gulf of Mexico for drilling and gas usage as oil and gas. So all these presidents are climate change nightmares. This is not lightning in a jar, though. They cannot do what they're doing without the cooperation of Congress, and both parties are guilty of this. Yeah, that party's evil, this party's evil. You got to get over this and say both parties are evil as to what they're doing. Antonio Guterres, is the head of the United Nations. He's the chief diplomat. He's the president of the United Nations. He said, as a result of this report that came out this summer and this fall and this winter, it was a 3-part series of, I think it was Working Group 6. He said we're in a code red for humanity. That means we have gone into a serious state that we're in trouble of actually fading away and becoming extinct. He said, we're putting nails in our own coffins. You know, that means we're drilling nails in our own coffin. And we're digging our own graves. You know, we're digging our own hole, our own graves, and we don't even recognize it. And this was a result of thousands of scientists getting together using 5-year-old data as to what's happening in the world concerning climate change. They did not consider feedback loops. They did not consider Arctic permafrost and methane venting off now from the Arctic. And they will not consider feedback loops, because that becomes an untenable situation when things start spinning out of control. So it's on to you to demand better choices of your politicians. If you're out there and voting and go, I'm going to hold my nose and vote for the lesser of two evils concerning climate change. That's all I'm talking about. I don't care about anyone else's policies on anything, because climate change is the overarching issue on everything. If you're holding your nose concerning climate change and voting for the lesser of two evils, don't vote. You're wasting your vote, or you're actually making it much worse. You're voting for people who are on a murderous path to killing us all. And, oh, you can't say that about my person. Yeah, that's what's happening right now. All these politicians have no plan, and they're drill, baby, drill. And if that's their policy, they're killing you and killing your children. And you're worried about children and how much carnage we're willing to accept. You're willing to accept a bunch of carnage, because that's what's coming to us. It's called extinction, and it won't be pretty when it happens. This is not something where you wake up in the morning and you're dead. You're going to see starving to death, burning, drought, flooding, all sorts of stuff. Ask the people in Brazil, ask the people in Africa, ask the people in India. So don't vote if it's a lesser of two evils, unless your politician has a clear-cut plan for climate change and will act on it, not some BS statement, it's an existential threat, and then not do anything for 2.5 years. Then don't vote for them. Okay? If your party votes, or if your party continues on this path, then you are voting for extinction. You're voting for killing every kid, every adult, everyone on the planet, all life on the planet. I'm seeing this with the trees right now. If you're mad at me for saying this, that's your fault, because you are not recognizing what is going on with climate change. You got to be really aware. If you're mad at the messenger rather than the message, then something's wrong with you. If you're mad at me and the message and not your party, then something's wrong with your thought process, and is also your lack of being informed about climate change. So I'll catch you next week. Sorry about the admonition, but we all need a good slap to the head once in a while to wake up, or good shaking or clicking of the fingers right in front of your face, hey, wake up, okay? So we need to wake up and, smell the whatever's going on around here. So please don't vote if your politician's not, has a clear-cut plan as far as climate change goes. And, that's about all I can say about that. Otherwise, you're committing murder-suicide, and it is how much carnage are we willing to accept? Evidently a lot in this world. So I'll catch you next week. See ya.